Meet him right after this. Okay, so here we come, Earl. I hope you're ready. What's up, man?
Not too much, not too much. You?
I'm doing well. Like usual, it was an adventure to get here, but here we are. Are you ready to go into the flashback?
100%.
Let's do it. Oh, it didn't work. See? There's the wrong things. Okay. So, is there anything you'd like to say before we get started?
Your story's amazing as well there, Daniel. I appreciate everything you do. Getting the word out is very, very important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Recovery is possible regardless of how you get there. But I appreciate everything you're doing, and I appreciate the show. And thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. Thank you. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up for Earl?
Definitely. I don't want to say it was a typical childhood, 70s, early 80s, but, we bounced back a bit between, my hometown, Saskatoon, and Calgary. But, a lot of sports playing, a lot of activity outside. One of the things that also was not so much a constant, but that happened while I was a child was the parties at home, the drinking, the rowdiness, fights in the end, right? Arguing. A lot of us, in recovery have experienced some type of childhood trauma, and I think that's where most of mine started. But it was I had a lot of good times. It was a lot of fun playing sports with my brothers. I mean, I was a kid. We broke the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest outdoor hockey game.
How long?
I think I was 12. But
How long was the game?
It was 36 hours.
Holy.
Yeah.
That's a
I
lot
didn't
of
even have
hockey.
shoes on at the end of that. I had moleskin on my feet and my socks. It was pretty brutal, but we did it. That was one of my big childhood memories.
Awesome. How were your relationships in school? Like, did you make friends easy and stuff like that, or?
For the most part, yeah. I had, a handful of friends that I always hung out with, right? As I grew older, I found out the home life for a lot of us was the same. But I had a close-knit little group. A lot of them, I still talk to today. Actually, most of them I still talk to today. So none of them knew about my trauma and everything I went through. But it's definitely great reconnecting with them and sharing my experience now.
Mm-hmm. So, did you get picked on or anything in school? I mean, you're a pretty big guy.
In elementary, I was pretty tiny, right? I was like 5'6", 110 pounds, all the way up to grade 11, grade 12.
Mm-hmm.
So in elementary, I there was a couple people that did pick on me. Thankfully, I had two older brothers, one that was in school with me, Dion, that usually came to assist me if I needed it.
Oh yeah, well that's nice.
Yeah.
I never had that growing up. I was on my own. So, how old were you the first time you got loaded?
First time I got loaded was about 12 years old. At the parties at my parents' house, you get up in the morning, everybody's sleeping. I've had tasted what was in the glasses and everything, but I really, got blackout drunk when I was 12 years old, and it's something I'll never forget because I probably shouldn't be here because of it. If it wasn't for two of my friends, I'd gotten really, really annihilated, and I passed out in a snowbank outside, and they brought me back in. I Canadian winters, right? If I'd have been left out there, or if somebody didn't even check on me,
Hmm.
I'd be dead, right? And it's all too common of an occurrence. But I was 12 years old.
Yeah. So were you all in right away? Like the first time you got loaded, were you like, this is it for me?
Mm, well, not so much with the booze, but like I was smoking pod, hash, oil. Like people hardly smoke oil or hash now, but
Hmm.
that's what it was when I was younger, and I was all in for that. But I never alcohol later on became my DOC.
Okay. Um, were you using anything else?
In my later teens, yes, like we did the acid, the mushrooms. I think I was about 17, 18 when I dabbled into cocaine.
Hmm.
But for the most part, like I didn't even get into the heavy drinking until later on, like 18, 19, 20, 21. It
Hmm.
was mostly all just smokables for the most part.
So, when did it become a problem? Or when did you start to notice it was becoming a problem?
I would say about 21, 22 after my first son Jesse was born. It became almost a daily thing, not quite, but I could notice the urge and the change in my body, the craving, I guess you could say, the wanting.
Hmm.
And I mean, I was growing mentally, and that's when I just didn't want to deal with anything. Right? I just masked it with my alcoholism.
Yeah. So you had a son. Were you in a relationship?
Yeah, yeah. We were. I think I left. Probably he was around 4 years old. I think he started school the next year. My firstborn, I love him to pieces, right? And unfortunately, and I can own it, right? My alcoholism
Hmm.
was played a huge part in destroying the relationship. I can own that. I've got no problem with that.
Hmm. So, tell us a bit about your 20s.
For the most part, I was working, drinking. When my first relationship with my son Jesse was done, I was probably about 25, and then around 26, it was just drinking all through, blackout drinking.
Hmm.
Right, I say now I had an allergic reaction to alcohol because every time I drank, I turned into an asshole, right, and I'd
Yeah.
black out. So I had another son at 26. My son Grayson, who is in Calgary, I still speak to and everything. Right, uh, not as frequent as I'd like to, but we chat and he understands. Right, I just talked with him a while ago and I admitted my faults and he said I know that. Right, so but that again, relationship, alcohol, same thing.
Yeah.
Lasted about a year. I think we had split up before his first birthday. So, and I didn't see him again until he was 12.
Yeah. So you went overseas.
Yeah, I went in my late 20s. We were going out to Japan doing concrete tile roofing of all things. Me and my
Yeah.
brother. My brother brought me out there.
So
My oldest brother less.
how did you come across that job? Because like I've been a tradesman for I was 16 years. I was welding, and nobody ever said, "Hey, let's go to Japan."
Luck of the draw, I
Yeah.
guess, right? I had no criminal record or nothing then, so it was easy. It was the company that we were working for was hired by an international company,
Hmm.
and then my brother had went out there, geez, about 12 times before I started going out there. But it was awesome, right? It
Hmm.
was you could buy booze out of a vending machine right on the corner.
And
You
that's
can walk
awesome.
down the street with liquor, right? So that was the
Yeah.
best part.
So okay, so was it like that? Was it? Do you think that it's worse in Japan, like because you can buy it's so accessible, or was that just like because they,
Mm,
you go to France, right? You go to France, and they have a glass of wine with supper, and then the young ones have a glass of wine with supper, and that's just no big deal, right? Like, was it like that in Japan, or did you notice a difference in alcoholism there?
Oh,
Or were you
not
too
at
loaded to
all.
notice?
The whole the whole time I was out there, I didn't see one homeless person.
Huh.
Not one. It was all businessmen. We were drinking on the train, right? It
Hmm.
was like people were drinking on their way home and then they went to whichever direction, but I didn't see anybody staggering around. I didn't see any of that. It was quite amazing, actually, not to with the amount of liquor and accessibility that I didn't see anybody drunk or passed out on the street or anything.
Hmm.
Very beautiful country.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so you got injured at one point in Japan. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was a near death for me. I was on the roof. I was hungover. Uh, when we had a skill saw and we had the plate cut off and the guard tied back, and we would put a diamond tip blade on it to cut the valleys because everything out there was 12-12, super steep. But when they transported it, somebody had put a wood blade on it, and I didn't even notice, the modifications of the saw. Picked it up, went to rip a piece of 1x4, and it bounced off my thigh and opened me right up.
Hmm.
It was pretty traumatic.
So, how was that? Like, how did were you loaded at the time?
No, no, no. I was hungover. It was first thing in the morning, right?
Okay.
So we were drinking the night before. I just didn't even notice, right? If I wasn't drinking or anything, I probably would have noticed.
Hmm.
But as soon as it bounced off my thigh, it ripped me wide open. I looked down. My leg was probably about 3 inches open,
Oh.
and I jumped down. I started screaming right away. Went onto the deck and went into the house, and I laid down, and my brother was holding me like there was blood squirting me in the face. I'd gotten quite a few veins, and when I actually lost consciousness, and my brother thought that I was dead.
Hmm.
I came to, and some of the medics in Japan, God bless their soul, were just standing me up and wrapped my arms around one of their necks, and they went down like about 20 feet of a ladder with me on his back, and I went to the hospital for 2.5 hours of cosmetic surgery, conscious.
Oh yeah. So then what? You're all laid up.
Well,
Like, how long were you laid up for?
it was probably about 3-4 months. We were there illegally, so the doctor, while I was, they tied me off and everything, so the bleeding would slow down. The doctor asked for my work visa. We weren't there on business. We were supposed to be there demonstrating, and the owner of the company we were out there with pulled the doctor out of the room, had a chat with him. They came back in and wheeled me into surgery. They tried to put me under twice and it wouldn't work. So they said they couldn't give me a third dose. It might stop my heart. So they went to work on me for 2.5 hours, pulling shards of beef jerky basically out of my thigh. The one doctor told me I was very lucky
Hmm.
because my artery was exposed, but it wasn't cut. So,
Do you
but
remember the whole thing?
oh yeah, yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday, and it's trauma compounded, right? The
Hmm.
more you go through, I thought I was dead,
Hmm.
and meanwhile, my girlfriend was pregnant with my second son back in Calgary, right?
Hmm.
And because I was there illegally, when I got back, the compensation that I was provided with was the lowest amount possible.
Hmm.
So I should have went after the company legally. I'm sure probably I signed documents somewhere, you know,
Hmm.
removing them from any liability. But that really messed up our lives, and we ended up moving back in with their parents.
Yeah. So how did that affect your substance use?
I was drinking the whole time, right?
Hmm.
Smoking a lot of weed. It wasn't medicinal. But
Who's to say? Who's to say?
yeah, but I just, I mean, pot was a part of my life. Smokable drugs were a part of my life until I quit when I was 37. Right, there was, and it wasn't an issue. It was the alcohol and the pharmaceuticals that were tough to stop. Later on in life.
So, what then? Like, so you recover from this injury, and
Yeah.
so then what? You go back to work, or what does that look like?
Well, I went back to work. I tried. I didn't touch a saw for probably about a year. I actually had to go on medication then because of the anxiety and everything. But I wasn't the same after that. Like trade wise, I came to the point where I said, "Screw this, man," and I went and grabbed a saw because my brother was doing my cutting for me.
Hmm.
Right? It was
Yeah.
it was pretty funny. He's coming across the roof to rip my 2x2s and 1x4s, but I got tired of it, and I just picked up the saw and ripped a piece of wood, and that was it. I was back in the saddle, so to speak. But I did concrete tile roofing all the way until I recovered. Even when I was living in an Oxford house, I was still doing concrete tile roofing.
So, what happened? I mean, there's a point here where you became homeless.
Yeah,
Where was the transition from employment to, like, what did that look like for you?
it was. I just eventually. I pissed everybody off. I burnt every bridge that could be burnt. I mean, even I remember calling my parents, and they said, if you're drinking, don't come out for Christmas. So I was by myself, and eventually I was living with some people that we were working with, and I had stolen a winning liquor or a lottery ticket from one of them to go buy booze. They knew what was going on. They told my brother, "Look, Earl can't stay here anymore, man. He's starting to steal from us." So my brother came and picked me up, and he dropped me off at the drop-in center in Calgary. Totally terrifying moment, right? I was 30 years old. Never been in that situation before. I always had a couch or somewhere to crash on, or my brother's house. But I ended up getting dropped off at the drop-in center, and the messed up thing is 15, 20 minutes into sitting down at a table in there, I fit in.
No way.
Everyone down there was suffering from some type of mental health or trauma, and I had a bag of weed on me. Said, "You guys want to smoke a joint?" And that was it. Right? I had my click.
So, okay, so you're in detox, correct?
No. I went into detox when I was 37. I was
Oh,
just straight in the drop-in center. I was homeless for 7 years, right?
so
On
what?
and
Tell
off.
us, what's a drop-in center then? Because I thought that meant detox.
Oh no, the Calgary Drop-In Center. It's a homeless shelter. I was in the
Oh, okay,
old part.
okay.
They built a new building to accommodate obviously a large amount of homeless people. But
Hmm.
I was in the old Drop-In Center, and that was my introduction into homelessness. Right, 7 years later, and it was a struggle. When they say survival mode, you're in survival mode. People are dying down there.
Hmm.
Right, winter comes, shelters are full. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I think it was like my 6th month down there. I got barred for trafficking drugs in there, and I had no idea about any other services in Calgary. So I ended up building a lean-to down by the C train station, Bridgeland Memorial,
Hmm.
and I stayed out for a whole winter.
Hmm.
There was times when I woke up and I couldn't feel my feet or my hands, and I was thinking, "Uh-oh." And
Yeah.
then eventually the feeling came back, but that was some pretty traumatic
Yeah.
experiences and times on the street.
Yeah.
Right? It's just heartbreaking that some of us we end up there, and it's we put ourselves in that position, so to speak.
Yeah.
But we're all down there mostly from the mental health and addictions, right?
Absolutely. So, what were you doing? Like, That's a pretty good stint. 7 years. How were you making ends meet? Like, how did you stay fed? How did you, like, tell us a little bit more. Give us
Oh,
some
you
insight.
would. The funny thing, well, not funny, but the thing is I was trying to. You hustle. You do whatever you can. You panhandle. You steal. You boost. You sell it. Uh, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I was actually my first adult criminal charge was trafficking cocaine, and it was to an undercover officer.
Oh boy.
The messed up part is I was selling cocaine to buy booze.
Hmm.
But that was my first charge as an adult, and I got 2 years less a day for it.
Did you do the
Right, I
whole
sat
thing?
in remand for 7 months. Out of my 7 years on the street, I had three hots and a cot because I was behind bars. Right?
Yeah. Did you ever do the thing where you like go and you get arrested on purpose just so you could be warm for the winter?
There was times where I would drink. I knew I had fines, and I just didn't give a shit. Basically,
Hmm.
I didn't care if I got arrested because I knew where I'd be going. And my first time in jail, it was just like walking into the drop-in center.
Hmm.
I knew everybody. I was nervous. I was thinking, "Holy smokes!" We've all seen the movies and everything when you're walking into jail. Hey, Earl, and I was thinking, okay, once again, I was home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Huh. So okay. Tell us a bit more. You had some run-in with the police at one point too. You got tuned up pretty good.
yeah, more than once. The funny thing is I work with them now, but
The same ones, like
couple.
the exact same ones.
No,
Oh.
I can't remember who they were.
Oh, that's
But
too bad.
yeah, that would be really entertaining to talk to them guys. But more than once, I got arrested and was worked over by the police. Um, in 2007, I had been with my partner then Jackie for it was about 2.5 years. I'd met her in detox, uh, but we'd had a little argument, and she ended up staying downtown. I went to my brother's house, taking, I don't know how many attempts this was at getting clean. I couldn't do it on my own. But shortly after that, I went back downtown to, the next day, I went down to apologize to her. And her cousin came up to me and he's crying and he's going, Earl, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I had no idea what he was talking about, right? And then I said, what's going on? And he fell to the ground and he said, I couldn't save her. Again, I still had no idea. And I lifted him up and I said, dude, what are you talking about? And he said, it's Jackie. I couldn't save her. She's dead. And I went off the handle, right? I found out he was a mess. I was a mess. I never went back to my brother's after that. I stayed downtown for 4 months and drank, but she was stabbed on 17th Ave here in Calgary, and she bled to death on 17th Ave on a bench. There
Sorry.
was four stabbings that night. They called her up to the car, asked for directions, and one guy came up behind her and stabbed her, and she bled to death right there on the bench. And that I didn't know what to do. We had an argument. I didn't get a chance to apologize. Right? That didn't just hit me here. That hit me here too. Right? The guilt of the last words I said to her, which weren't very pleasant. I won't repeat them. But it was more trauma to throw on my plate, right? It was just unreal. But 4 months after that, I'd went, and I have no idea how I got there. I got arrested at a Shoppers Drug Mart on 17th Avenue, and I was locked in the back room, and I woke up to people pounding on the door, and I had no idea where I was. I just opened up the door and it was the cops and they rushed me and I said, what the hell's going on? And they had told me that I was in a blackout. right? That's how I dealt with my trauma, was drinking and drugging. I was in a blackout, and apparently I'd walked into, and this is a busy Shoppers Drug Mart, so I could imagine what people were thinking. I walked in there, and I guess apparently I tried to rip a cash register off the counter. And when I couldn't, I ran into the back room and locked myself in. And the police kindly, escorted me out of the Shoppers. And when we were outside, the cop said, "Looks like I'm arresting another effing drunk Indian," he said to me. And I said, "It looks like I'm getting arrested by another asshole PIG." And that was it. Like in the movie Bing Bang Boom, I got a couple knocks, and then they threw me in the back of the cruiser, drove into the back alley. There was a bar right there. When he pulled into the back alley, there was another cruiser sitting there. And then I could see the lights come through the back window. Another cruiser pulled up behind the van I was in, and I knew what was going to happen. They pulled me out of the car, threw me up against the wall. The one cop stomped on my foot, broke my foot. I was still loaded, so there was no way I could stay steady, and they kept saying, "Stay still." Every time I didn't, they'd knock my head off the wall or kick me in the calves with their steel toe boots. And then they threw me in the back of the van again. I did the handcuff trick and put the cuffs in front of me. Cop walked in, open palmed me right in the eye, shut my eye. And he said to me, "If I come here again," they were all talking outside. He said, "If I come here again and your cuffs and your hands are in front of you, I'm going to shut that door behind me." And I was good. I was worked over pretty good then. Lumped head to toe. But they ended up bringing me to the drunk tank. I had 11 warrants for my arrest, and then I'd went in front of the JP. I just had enough. It was sitting in there. It's not a place anybody should be, but I was sitting in there and just thinking, what has my life come to? And I had a visual of every time somebody passes away that's homeless, they put a poster up on the outside of the doors of all the shelters saying "Memorial for so and so," and I had the vision that there was one up and it said "Memorial for Earl Thiessen," and it was an eye opener. I didn't want to go out like that. I didn't want to die on the streets. I knew that's not what the Creator brought me here for. There was more for me to do. So I went in front of the Justice of the Peace, 11 warrants, and I was honest with him. I said, I need and want help with my addictions, and I need help to deal with the murder of my partner. Right, and he asked her name. He was up in 11 over teleconference, or up in Edmonton by teleconference, and I told him her name. He said, "My condolences. I heard about that up here. It was all over the news because of the stabbing spree." But that's when he said, "You know what? I'm gonna release you on your own recognizance. I want you to go get the help you want and need, and I want you to clean up your criminal charges." And that was the turning point.
Okay, we're going to take a little break. Okay, we've got a question coming in here. Where did it go? From Dustin. Dustin wants to ask, what are the county jails like in Canada? Well, we're provincial here, Dustin, but thanks for the question. Earl, maybe you can speak to that.
It's I'd imagine it's the same everywhere, right?
Yeah,
provincial Provincial is it's like 23-hour lockdown. I was on. My criminal charges were trafficking cocaine. After a while, I built up my couple assaulting police officers and everything. So it was 23-hour lockdown. You read a lot of books, and you know what's going on there. You gotta watch your ass, or you're gonna get messed up. It's not a fun place to be. Let me tell you, right?
Before we continue, I just want to say if anybody's got any comments or questions that they want to get in, we see them. Please get them in now. We're going to go into the viewer's voice here when Earl's done sharing, and we're going to look at your comments and answer any questions you might have. So continue, Earl. What was it like? What was your first year like?
Well, on November 13th, 2007, that's when I walked out of the city buckets, limped all the way up to Renfrew. I knew I needed medical detox because when I went through the Alpha House, God bless them, that was my home for 3 years. It's a homeless shelter and a intox. But I hit the ground and I had a seizure. Like I was heavy into pharmaceuticals, the booze, crack, you name it. But when I withdrew, I had hit the ground and had 2 grand mal seizures and chewed through a third of my tongue. So when I got released that morning, 6:30 in the morning, that was torturous, lots of pain. So I knew that I needed medical detox. So I had limped up to Renfrew Recovery Center, and I've been clean ever since.
Awesome, man. So, let's see, what do we got here? Now, you ended up in Oxford House. Tell us.
I did. See, and this is where the whole pre-treatment idea for me in Calgary came from. I was sitting in detox. I had a treatment date 2 months away from when I was detoxing. I was scared shitless because I knew if I was like, I went through detox 28 times at Alpha House and 6 times at Renfrew, right? So I knew if I left that building without supports, I was probably going to end up dead. I would have been a statistic, right? As much as I wanted to recover, when you're put back in the same situation you came from, odds are stacked against you. So a wonderful woman named Gwen, I'd called her at Alpha. She had said she would call Sunrise Native Addiction Services, and 4 days later I was in treatment, and that's 2 small windows that happened for me. Once with the JP, once with going into treatment, and I jumped on those. I went into Sunrise I did the 6-week program, then I did the 3-month program. And while I was in that 3-month long-term program, I'd actually asked if I could go and finish my long-term outpatient. And that's when I went into an Oxford House. It was an Indigenous men's home. It was a bit of a disaster when I moved in, but I went back and spoke with my counselor and said, I don't really think I want to live in that place. It's pretty messed up. And she said, Earl, why don't you go back and make that your home then? Right? So that's exactly what I did. 30 days, like when I moved in there was 2 brothers, a cousin, and a drunk uncle passed out on the couch downstairs. That's why I didn't want to live there. When I went back there, uncle's gone. A week and a half later, the guys in the house knew I was there to recover. So 2 of them left. And then there was another gentleman in the house who stayed there, who was clean and sober from what I could tell, stayed there and finished his pipe fitting ticket. It took 30 days, and I washed the walls, carpet cleaned up the whole house. It took me a month to do that. Yeah, but the founder, Ron McMillan, of Oxford House had taken notice, and he actually asked my wife, Karina, when she was in an Oxford House, he said, do you think Earl would be interested in working for Oxford House Foundation? I was working at In From the Cold at the time. But I had went in talked to Ron, got interviewed. Me and another gentleman got interviewed, and by the grace of God, I got the position. That was in 2009. Went through almost every position you could with support and everything, and 10 years later, I'm the executive director.
Wow. So what was it like coming up through the ranks? Was it a challenge? Did you ever meet anybody? Did you ever relapse? What was that like?
No. I found my purpose, and helping others is my purpose, right? And I know that. Proven time and time again. When I was doing interviews, when I was a support worker, it was just like I was talking to myself, right? Thousands of interviews I've done, all good people just needing a place to heal, right? Some were ready. I went through treatment 5 times, so 5th time was the charm, right? When I went into recovery this time, it was for me. I did it for girlfriends. I did it for my kids. I did it for my parents. Every time I fell on my face.
Yeah. Until
I looked at myself and went through the healing process myself, it didn't work. Yeah. So do it for yourself. Yeah. Everyone around you will reap the rewards of your recovery, right? But I was meant to do what I'm doing. I was a support worker, Indigenous support worker, housing supervisor, program manager, director of operations, and now executive director. I haven't worked a day in my life in 12 years. Well, not a day in my life, a day at Oxford House, because this isn't work. It's a gift of recovery. I get to help people just like me. Yeah. I can relate to them. When I say, I know what you're talking about, I know what you're feeling, I've been there, right? Through all the trauma, physical, mental, sexual, emotional, spiritual abuse. I've been there, and I worked my way through it with the help of others, of course. Speaking is healing. When I talk about my journey, it hurts, but it's also helping me heal myself. When you can look in a mirror and look yourself in the eyes and say, I love you, and not start laughing or look away, you're on your way, right? There's a time when you're young, you're in your youth or a child, where you disconnect, right? The trauma makes you disconnect from yourself. Recovery starts when you reconnect with yourself, right? That's my opinion. That's the way I see it. I know everybody recovers differently, but it was, 6 months ago, I got my Indian status card, right? My mom didn't even have one, but I honored my mother by going through the 2.5-year process to get that, because I wanted my identity. I knew I was Indigenous, right? When I went into Sunrise and I started practicing our culture, it was home. Go ahead.
Sorry, that was gonna be my next question. How has ceremony played into your recovery? Have you worked with elders? Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a huge part of my recovery. That was when I reconnected with myself, because I found myself. Right when I did my step 5, I did it with an elder, a female Indigenous elder. And it was 2.5 hours. That was the first time I got honest. 2.5 hours of crying. I didn't even look at my step 4, because it was bullshit. It's what I thought. It's what I thought people wanted to hear, right?
Yeah.
And I know step 1 is the, if you're doing it that way, step 1 is the most important step, people say. But for me, it was step 5.
I'm not so sure.
It was time to cut the bullshit, right? And I got honest with myself, and I just let it all out. And I just cried. And when I walked out of the elder's room, I knew my life was going to change. And then sweats, right? Smudging, going to powwows. It's such a huge sense of community. And that's what, not to turn it into a truth and reconciliation talk, but that's what was taken. Was community. When I got back into community, I was at home, right? And I could reconnect with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And we all need a place to heal. That's why the Oxford homes are so important, because you have like minded people around you that you can talk to that won't judge you. Your home is your place to heal. There's no time limit,
Mm-hmm.
right? How long you can stay. It's just phenomenal, right? I
Mm-hmm.
owe my life to Oxford House and to the peer supported recovery model.
So my first step 5, it took me 6 hours. So I got you licked there. I cried for 6 hours. So there you go. So anyways, so okay, tell us a bit about the programs in Oxford House. Like, you're talking about ceremony. Is that something that Oxford House offers? Like, is there access to those resources?
Yeah, we when I first came into Oxford House, it was long-term peer-supported recovery housing.
Hmm.
Now we have, of course, the we're not changing the model. That's a mainstay, but we also have pre-treatment housing for people that are on wait lists. You go into detox, you get like there's nowhere near enough treatment centers. There's
Hmm.
nowhere near enough medical detoxes in the country to handle all of us alcoholics and addicts. But
Yeah.
when you go into detox, you're usually put on a wait list for treatment. That's where the whole, you know, idea premise of pre-treatment came into play. And now
Hmm.
we have a pre-treatment men's, a pre-treatment women's, entry-level housing, which is for the chronically homeless and the institutionalized, because you need a little bit more guidance, you know what I mean, than just peer support.
Yeah.
So we have those houses with a house lead in there who is experienced, who is in recovery, and they can help guide you through the necessary resources to learn how to write a resume, right? To learn how to do an interview,
Hmm.
apply for jobs. So we have that, and then we have our peer and culturally supported Indigenous recovery homes. We originally collaborated with Poundmakers Lodge to open up the first one in Calgary. Now we have 5, right? 3 men's, 2 women's. COVID really kicked our ass when it came to the cultural support, because everything we do with ceremony is in a community, right? So
Yeah.
we're looking at getting back into that. We did the sweats, right? Had healing circles, powwows we go to, but that was all put on hold because of COVID. We actually switched our entry level homes into temporary monitored homes, we call them,
Hmm.
because when COVID kicked in, everybody knows the whole planet was in shock. The recovery continuum was interrupted in a large way.
Yeah.
So we developed those 2 homes. Took about 5 days. We developed those 2 homes. People come in, they isolate for 10 to 14 days, and then they go to their treatment center, or they go into pre-treatment or another Oxford home. But the Indigenous homes are really, really important, right? We started those about 2 years ago, close to 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and the need has just multiplied, right? Everything that's going on now, and we coined it a place to heal, because that's exactly what they are. You can be. There is no Cree, Blackfoot, Soto, Dene. We're all Indigenous,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
all come together and we all heal together, and that's the beauty of the homes, right? We're looking at hopefully having a sweat here right away, and we're going to invite some guests in there so they can see how important this is. Hopefully
Hmm.
they can last 4 rounds. It gets pretty hot in there, but
Yeah.
but we're going to start implementing ceremony and everything again. Just we have to. We need to provide that healing space for our people.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to move into the viewer's voice here. We can chat a bit more, but we got a couple of comments and a question here, so let's do that. Okay, we've got Claudia. with a comment. Thanks, Claudia, for watching. Claudia says, wow, coming off the streets to treatment to someone's drunk uncle on a couch to the executive director. What a story of recovery.
It is possible. It does happen, right?
Yeah, well, we're both sitting here, aren't we?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, and of course, you start comparing step fives, and then somebody's, it just kind of takes off. Nancy says, my step five took 4 to 5 hours. And that is not surprising. Actually, I did mine in 2 separate sessions. My sponsor's like, enough for today, man. Come back. I did it in 2 3-hour sessions. Yeah. So, what else do we got here? Thanks for the comment, Nancy. And we have got Claudia. Pre-treatment. How do we get that in Saskatchewan? That is a great question.
It should be all over Canada. The resources are there, right? Pre-treatment isn't mine. It's not someone else. I know residents in recovery up in Lloyd, they also have pre-treatment housing. It's not ours. If somebody called me and said, how can we develop pre-treatment housing here? I'd say, do you have the homes? The answer was yes. Let's get together and let's set it up. It wouldn't matter if it was in Nova Scotia or the island, wherever it is, that's not ours. That's everybody's. It needs to be shared everywhere. I can't believe it's not all over the place.
So it's not regulated or anything like that? We just sort of Wild West and...
Well, it's, no, you have it's the peer support model. See, the key for ours is a house lead. There's 4 beds in each house, and I have a house lead who, has mid to long-term recovery, has been in Oxford House. It's an Oxford House alumni or resident that goes in there, and they're basically volunteering their time to help guide people, because we don't want you to work in pre-treatment. We don't want you to go to school in pre-treatment. We want you to get ready to go into treatment and get the basics, right? Mm-hmm. Cleaning your room, vacuuming, cutting the lawn, doing your dishes, cooking your meals, going to 5 meetings a week, right? So you can get somewhat of a foundation before you get into treatment.
Kimberly Ann, your comment got cut off. The last words that I have here are, unfortunately, my son was. So if you want to put the rest of that into an additional comment, we will read it out here. But we are going to go to a couple other comments and give you a chance to do that. Let's see what else we got here. Dustin chiming in again. Thank you, Dustin. Dustin says, could you please explain the difference between pre-treatment and inpatient outpatient treatment? I think you might have kind of already did that, but maybe you can, yeah, he put this comment in a little while ago.
We're going to, we're looking at modifying that with the help of the Calgary Homeless Foundation and the government of Alberta. We're actually going to be adding an extra component to that, which is a counselor is going to come in, do 1-hour group sessions just to get them prepared for treatment, right? It's not 5 days a week, hardcore 8:30 till 4:30 treatment. They're just going to get a little bit of counseling, say relapse prevention, stuff like that, conflict resolution, just minor stuff to help get them prepared. When I started recovery, it was all alcoholism and cocaine. And it was your 30 to 45-year-old person coming in, for the most part, not all, but that was the general population that was coming in. Now it's all fentanyl and crystal meth, and it's a much younger crowd coming in. So we need to add supports to that. It's very, very crucial at the beginning of your recovery to be set in a positive direction moving forward, right? It's an inpatient, outpatient is day treatment. This is just, you're going to get a little bit of counseling, but the work is yours. Accountability is huge. You're not just accountable to your roommates, you're accountable to yourself. And as much as I'd like to say the success rate is 100%, that's not realistic, right? So we just want to put added supports in there and in entry-level housing so people have a stronger foundation that are coming into their recovery journey.
We've got the other part of your comment, Kimberly. Kimberly says, let's see, this won't all fit on the screen, but we'll put it up there anyways. We'd like to see her face on the screen. Kimberly says, Earl will help anyone that needs it. He is a good friend of my good friend. I've never met him. My son is a meth addict and was in dire need of treatment. He had my son set up with a letter to the judge and a plan for him. Unfortunately, we've got more. My son was not released, but he was willing to get my son the help he so desperately needed. Thank you, sir. We've got another.
That's why we do it, right?
We've got Beverly chiming in.
Yeah,
Sorry.
she's a great mother. And I've seen this so much with parents, right? I could only imagine what I put my parents through now, right? When I deal with parents, there's so much love and caring for their children, no matter how old they are. So I'll help anybody that asks for it, right? And I'll go to any means. I won't do the work for you, but I'll open up the doors. It's up to them to walk through.
Beverly says, thank you for sharing your story of trauma and experiences. Your resiliency and passion is glowing, and you have filled my cup this evening.
Thank you, Beverly.
We've got Karina chiming in here. She says, I'd like to say to everybody that this man has saved my life. The love he had for me made me realize I was wanted and needed, and he was exactly the person I needed for me to become who I am today.
And has for you, baby. That's my wife.
Yeah. We've got Terry. She's beaking off at me here. Terry, Dan, a pre-treatment house. That would be incredible here. We need this. She would bake so many cookies. Thanks for the comment, Terry. Okay, I think we're dying down here. Earl, my friend, is there anything that you'd like to leave us with tonight?
Just that recovery is possible, right? Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your loved ones, right? As long as there is air in their lungs and there's air in my lungs, and everybody in the recovery sector, we're gonna do the best we can to help as many people as possible, right? I know you can't save the world, but we can definitely help one person at a time.
Awesome. Okay, my friend, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will let you go.
You betcha, buddy.
Take care.
Thanks, Dan. Play safe.
You bet. Keep your stick on the ice. Okay, there's power in numbers. If you would like to contribute to ending the stigma around emotional pain, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Like and comment your thoughts on our posts. Let us come together with our lived and living experience as a resource that has the power to engage new thought processes, to promote new ideas, to broaden the spectrum of care, and to show the world that the lie is dead. We do recover, and we're here to show you how. Good night. We're glad you're here too, Dustin. You're very welcome, Corey. Welcome, Nancy.